What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Kevin Jackwitz here with the Kaged review, and it is time to talk spoilers for Avengers Infinity War. And, you know, I really understand why they had such a tight lid on this movie, Marvel and the Russo brothers, because this whole movie is a spoiler. Like, there is not much that happens that isn't a huge shock moment. And, you know, with 10 years of building up to one movie, you knew that there was going to be stakes, you knew there was going to be casualties. But, man, I had no idea that they were going to go this big with it. And, you know, I get why they didn't want to give out the name for the next Avengers movie, Avengers 4 or Infinity War Part 2 or whatever it's going to be. Because anything you do is going to shed light on something that happened in this movie. And it was huge. I mean, there was so much going on. So let's get into this. The first thing we're going to talk about is, I was really kind of wondering why Hawkeye wasn't in the trailer. A lot of people were. Well, he's not in the movie at all. And I thought that was a surprise to me. So you have no Hawkeye. And conspicuous by his absence is Hawkeye, but also Ant-Man. And originally, Ant-Man was in this movie with the Wasp. So what happened to them? It's a big question. So, this movie starts out literally where Thor Ragnarok leaves. You have Thor, Loki, and everybody from Asgard in that ship, and then that big ship rises up right in front of them. Well, that was Thanos, and we kind of figured that. But what we didn't figure is that the movie was going to open up with everybody from Asgard dead. You've got Thor, Loki, Heimdall, and I think those are the only three from Asgard still alive. The Hulk rushes in to try to whoop on Thanos and gets his ass handed to him quickly. Thanos takes care of the Hulk very, very quickly. I was really surprised, man, that they really wanted to show how beast Thanos was that quickly. So Heimdall transports Bruce Banner back to Earth, and for that, he gets killed right off the bat. So he's the first victim. And Thor, Thanos has actually got him by the head. He's kind of on the ground, and Thanos is literally holding him by his head. And he's trying to get Loki to give him the Infinity Stone, the Tesseract. And Loki didn't want to give it up at first. And he was saying, go ahead, kill Thor, you know. And so Thanos is going to, and then Loki's like, alright, stop. And it was really funny because there was a curveball there where you thought that Loki was going to, you know, turn into the typical bad guy Loki and try to team up with Thanos. But it was kind of a red herring because he has a knife behind him and he goes to stab Thanos and that doesn't work. And then Thanos grabs Loki, picks him up by the neck, chokes him, you see his eyes getting bloodshot, and then just breaks his neck. So Loki dies right off the bat. And Heimdall. Thanos winds up getting the Infinity Stone and then blows up the ship. And that leaves Thor kind of floating in space. The Guardians of the Galaxy, they answer a distress call, and that's how they run into Thor, quite literally. They're, you know, going to this distress signal, and then there's just a bunch of bodies floating in space, a bunch of dead bodies, and Thor's one of them, and they literally, run into him. He opens his eye, and they pull him into the ship, and that's how they all meet. You know the Collector dies because Thanos goes to his shop to get, I think it was the Reality Stone that he had. And so Collector is done. And it was weird because there was a moment there where the Guardians of the Galaxy show up and they're trying to, you know, take care of Thanos, and that doesn't work. and it shows how powerful the Reality Stone is. Drax goes running, and Thanos just like activates the Reality Stone. And he like falls into these block pieces, and then he does the same thing with Mantis, where she just kind of like has this ribbon effect where she just like kind of starts falling apart. And neither one of them die there. It just kind of, is a momentary thing, and then they come back together when he leaves. So it was very, very interesting to see how powerful he is with this Reality Stone. Another really cool moment here was the backstory that they had with Gamora, how Thanos originally invaded her land and then saw how strong she was and then decided to kind of take her as his own daughter in a way, and how resentful she still was of that. And it builds up to this point where Thanos is trying to get the Soul Stone, and he's torturing Nebula, so that Gamora will give him the Soul Stone, and eventually she caves in. They both go to this area where the Soul Stone is, and the Keeper actually turns out to be the Red Skull. That was kind of cool. And the whole idea is that for him to get the Soul Stone, Thanos, he has to give up something that he loves, a soul that he loves. And Gamora was like saying, it's ironic because you don't love anything. And Thanos is all teary-eyed at this point, and he's like, well, that's not true. And of course, Gamora didn't realize that he actually cared about her as much as he did, but then he grabs her and throws her over the cliff to get the Soul Stone. That was kind of a payoff right there. I wasn't quite as connected to the Gamora character, but I mean it served a very good moment there, especially for a Thanos emotional moment. So at this point, he had the Power Stone as soon as the movie started. He got the Space Stone from Loki. He's got the Reality Stone from the Collector, the Soul Stone from, Gamora, I guess. And then you build up to the last two stones, where there's a big fight on the planet Titan where Spider-Man, Nebula, few of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Doctor Strange are. And there's a point where Thanos is just wrecking Tony Stark. And he actually stabs Stark with a piece of his own suit right through the side. And he's about to finish him off. And then Doctor Strange says, wait, stop, if you spare him, I'll give you the Time Stone. And this is something that, like, the whole movie, Doctor Strange has been saying, we need to protect the Time Stone with our lives, him and Wong. And so it was a real curveball when he said, you know what, just spare Tony and I'll give you the Time Stone. Because everybody's like, what? That doesn't make sense. But he does. He coughs up the Time Stone and gives it to Thanos. So now he's got 5 of the 6 Infinity Stones, which leaves one more character, which of course is Vision. And Vision, I mean, through this entire movie has gone through hell because the Black Order has been trying to get this Mind Stone from Vision, from his head. And they stabbed through him a couple of times. They've had a moment where they were trying to pry the stone out of his head. Didn't work out. But through this whole movie, he was just going through it. And it eventually comes down to they're in Wakanda, and Vision tells Scarlet Witch that, she has the ability to destroy the Mind Stone, and if it comes down to it, she needs to do that. So, that's what happens. they're all on the battlefield. Thanos shows up, and so Scarlet Witch uses her power to explode the Mind Stone, thus killing the Vision. But Thanos, since he has the Time Stone, literally just goes back a few minutes and then picks up Vision and rips the stone from his head. And it really goes to show you, again, how powerful he is now. He has control of everything. He really does. He has control of reality. He has the ultimate power. He can warp in and out from anywhere. He has control. He can go back and forth through time. So this Infinity Gauntlet is pretty much the end all. So, like I said, he rips the stone from Vision's head, and insanity ensues. As soon as he rips the stone from Vision's head, Thor comes in. Now, Thor had this special axe made from this dwarf who is actually a giant, played by Peter Dinklage. And it was the same guys who made Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. And so they developed a weapon that could kill Thanos. So as soon as the Infinity Gauntlet gets completed, Thor comes in and throws the axe into Thanos' chest. And it looks like Thanos is going to die. It looks, like everything's over. He's fading. And then Thanos looks at Thor and says, "You should have gone for the head," and snaps his fingers. And the whole movie, they've been saying how all Thanos needs to do is snap his fingers, and he would kill half the universe's population. Literally. The snap of his fingers, half the universe, half the population of every planet gone. So, you're not entirely sure what happens for a couple of seconds, and then the insanity ensues. You see Bucky Barnes walking to Captain America and literally just falls apart. And you're like, what? And then from there, oh my God. The next person you see fall apart is Black Panther, T'Challa. Just falls apart. And that caused an audible gasp from a lot of people. Then, Doctor Strange, Drax, Mantis, all still on planet Titan, fall apart. And Doctor Strange says something to the extent of, "This is what needed to happen," something like that. And then he falls apart. And then Spider-Man, after seeing all these guys, he starts feeling weird and he freaks out and he's like, "I'm not ready to die yet," and this and that. And actually has this really, really good freak out moment that is really what started a lot of people just crying crazily. Like, that Spider-Man scene got to a lot of people in that theater. And, it was an emotional payoff for sure. And then you come back to Wakanda, Groot is there, he dies, the Falcon dies right after that, Scarlet Witch dies right after that. So it's like, oh my God, they just killed literally half of the Avengers off. And the fucked up thing about it was the new half, like Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Black Panther. These are all things that they could have set up these new franchises with. And to kill off Black Panther right after that amazing movie that they just had, I was like, oh my God. And it makes me wonder if they're going to find a way to bring some of these characters back, maybe using the Time Stone, or if they're actually just dead. So, there's a big question mark there, because if not, this really reshapes the MCU. And I went online last night to see what movies are being made, or what I thought they were making a new Spider-Man, but apparently there's no confirmation for that. The only movies that are confirmed are Captain Marvel, the next Avengers, and they're using the Fox movies now, Dark Phoenix, Venom. So really the only original Marvel Studios characters that are being used in movies again is Ant-Man and the Wasp and the next Avengers movie, and that's it. Well, and Captain Marvel. So, I mean, like I said, this really reshapes the MCU. So the survivors of this were Tony Stark and Gamora, or not, I'm sorry, not Gamora, Nebula. They were on Titan, and those were the only two survivors on Titan, were Nebula and Stark. And then you have Thor, Captain America, Black Widow, Rhodey, Banner. I think her name's Trisha, Black Panther's sister. Wong. I mean, so they literally cut the Avengers in half. Half of them are dead, half of them made it through. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. Now, the emotional payoffs for me in this movie, I think the first one was Thor, when there was a scene where he was talking to Rocket Raccoon, and Rocket was asking him if he was, emotionally able to do this. And he starts talking about how, Thor had lost Loki, he lost his dad, he lost his whole planet of Asgardians. His mom's dead. And like I said, Hemsworth really plays it off with that emotional scene there. He's trying to hold it together, and you can see he's extremely torn up about it, and he's at the verge of breaking down, and he's like, what more can I lose? And I thought it was a very good scene. Another emotional payoff was toward the end there. I mean, you started seeing the budding relationship with Scarlet Witch and the Vision and Captain America Civil War. Well, they're actually in the relationship now. And so when Scarlet Witch had to kill Vision, that was a pretty big moment. I think that was a pretty big emotional payoff. Spider-Man dying at the end there, him having such a tie to Tony Stark, and Tony really having to watch him die and freak out about it. I think that was a huge emotional payoff there. Tony getting stabbed, when Thanos stabbed Tony with his own suit, everybody was freaking out. And the question was, who's going to die in this movie? And everybody was expecting Iron Man or Captain America, one of the big ones, to die off. And it looked like it was going to be Tony. Of course, he didn't. And he made it through, but that was a pretty big impactful moment. I thought Red Skull showing up as the Soul Stone Guardian was really cool. I think a lot of people really liked that kind of cameo appearance from Red Skull. And I think for me, the biggest surprise of all was I knew that this was going to be a 2 Avengers movie set, one right now and then the next one next year. And originally they were going to be Infinity War 1 and Infinity War 2. So I didn't expect Thanos to actually finish the Infinity Gauntlet and then to snap his fingers and actually complete his mission. I did not expect that at all. I did not see that coming. I didn't think they were going to do it this quick. And it really makes me question what they're going to do with the next Avengers, because what can you do? And I have to believe that the whole bit with Adam Warlock that you saw at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, they're going to bring Adam Warlock in, because if you've read the comics, he is the one who kills Thanos. So Adam Warlock is a viable possibility to be bringing in. Now, another thing is, I haven't talked about yet, but the end credit scene, you get Nick Fury, and I forget the other girl who's in S.H.I.E.L.D. She was in the first Avengers movie. But they're riding in a car together, and then suddenly this car just goes careening and wrecks right in front of them. They get out of the car, and there's nobody in the car. Well, then the lady from S.H.I.E.L.D. just kind of turns to ash. And then, you see people just kind of turning to ash all around them. you see a helicopter spinning out and crash into a building, and then Nick Fury starts to deteriorate too, and he's starting to text somebody. Well, actually, he's got a pager, and he falls apart. Nick Fury falls apart, and then the pager drops, and you see the Captain Marvel symbol. So that, of course, is leading to Captain Marvel coming up next year. And that's the end of it. And then you're just left in a state of shock and awe. Like, you're like, oh my god, they just killed so many characters. Like, what the hell? So, God, man. I mean, I'm still trying to digest all of it. This is the next day. It was a hugely emotional payoff. I think 10 years building to this and getting connected to these characters, and to see so many just gone. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do. The one thing that I was really surprised they didn't do was kill either Iron Man or Captain America. And I have to believe that they're saving that for the next Infinity War movie. I don't know how many or who's going to die, but I have to believe that somehow they're going to find a way to bring some of these characters back, and that they're going to kill some of the main Avengers. And I think that that's the emotional payoff that they're waiting for the next movie. Because, God, this one, man, it was an impact. So, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, it was a hell of a movie, a hell of an experience. 10 years in, and they have not lost their touch at all. They threw a lot of curveballs, and I think that they really did everything just the way it needed to be done. And I think they saved enough to where they can walk into Avengers 4 with a lot of great potential for the same thing. So, let me know what you think in the comments if you saw the movie, which I'm guessing you did since this is a spoiler review. Talk to me. Let me know what you thought about it. If you enjoyed this review, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz. Kaged Nation out.